I was just getting warmed up. This is called Famous Last Words. And it's a poem with a long preface. I was raised a liberal Protestant, and I was always taught to pay more attention to the glory of the resurrection, almost to the point of ignoring the gory nature of the crucifixion. And I was taught was the difference between a Protestant and a Catholic. I was taught that the Catholics got it wrong. They left poor Jesus up there on the cross, and we were smart enough to take him down. With Good Friday and Easter, we have the benefit of knowing how the plot ends. Christians, we have it easy if we only follow who Marcus Borg calls the post-Easter Jesus. We have Sunday morning to soothe our Saturday morning. Morning spelled with a U the second time. Holy Week begs us to follow a subversive peasant pre-Easter Jesus to his final hours, his passion, his famous last words. Deeply moved by Peter Rollins' book, How Not to Speak of God, and equally dissatisfied with theological or scholarly attempts to gloss over, candy coat, justify, rationalize, wiggle out of, or explain away Christ's total sense of terror on the cross, I wrote a poem to place us in Christ's final words, translated in Matthew 27 as, my God, why have you forsaken me?" Instead of forsaken, Eugene Peterson uses the word abandoned in the message. As Christians, we are rightfully disturbed by the notion of God's possible sadism, masochism, schizophrenia, nihilism, and or atheism exemplified by these final moments on the cross. However, I am not impressed with the theological arguments that try to protect us from the utter desolation of Good Friday and the true pain of Holy Saturday, like a parent would protect a young child from the harder facts of life. I don't want my theologians and my pastors to protect me from the depth, the deeper mystery and meaning of my faith, because they're afraid that I can't handle the dark reality of Holy Saturday. Rollins pushes us to a new understanding of this dark time and its relevance to our faith. And I quote from Peter Rollins' book, "The believer who encounters serious doubt does not renounce his or her faith, but rather uses it as an opportunity to affirm it. We may call this acknowledgement of doubt a Holy Saturday experience, a term that refers to the 24 hours nestled between the crucifixion and the resurrection of Christ. This day marks a moment of great uncertainty and darkness for the followers of Jesus. It is precisely in the midst of a Holy Saturday experience that the decision to follow Christ becomes truly authentic. A faith that can only exist in the light of victory and certainty is one which really affirms the self while pretending to affirm Christ. For it only follows Jesus in the belief that Jesus has conquered death. Yet a faith that can look at the horror of the cross and still say yes is the one that says no to the self and saying yes to Christ. If one loses one's life only because one believes that this is the way to find it, then one gives up nothing. To truly lose one's life, one must lay down that life without regard to whether or not one finds it. Only a genuine faith can embrace doubt, for such a faith does not act because of a self-interested reason, such as the fear of hell or the desire for heaven, but acts simply because it must. A real follower of Jesus would commit to him before the crucifixion, between the crucifixion and the resurrection, and after the resurrection. And that's Peter Rollins' How Not to Speak of God. Now, I don't know if you remember this movie by Mel Gibson that came out in 2004 called The Passion of the Christ. But when it was released, without even seeing the film, I agreed with the critique that it made a violent and sensational fetish of the cross, continuing Hollywood's sick cinematography of death, making it a kind of religious pornography.